off her body. And did they just decide that they didn't want to go down for that and discard her things along the route and just keep driving one way or the other? Because Morphew wouldn't have known at the time what she was wearing. He just said, look, here's some more recent clothes. This will have the scent in it because she's worn it and it's not been washed yet. It's in a laundry basket probably. So maybe, he later realised actually where is her aquamarine or her blue riding top. Or he's just said bike gear. Maybe he didn't know what bike gear she might have been wearing. But he knew the helmet wasn't found. But I've always found it curious. He didn't say phone on that list, right? Yeah, I mean, that's curious, is it? I don't know. Is that curious? Did she leave the phone behind? She didn't go cycling with it, maybe. And he's got it because he wanted it. But, Morphew is adamant. He found out definitively, okay, yes, Suzanne was having an affair, and it was with Jeff Libler in July 2021. And, I mean, he even accuses her of having an affair with one of his friends, right? And that says, no, he's really grasping at straws. Ziegler, right? What does that say? And isn't that interesting? And what does it say about, Ziegler says that Suzanne confided in him about Barry accusing her of having affairs or something. Is that right? I mean, that's a big risk. So she felt super close to Ziegler, super confident, super comfortable. I don't think a woman in a desperate domestic violence situation, I think Suzanne was a woman that did exert control over things herself and in her own way and play her own games. And that's not saying that's not aspersions on, just take that for what it is. Because what a risk for a battered woman, for a woman to talk to his friend, to tell on him and his behavior and looking for his support or for her own reasons. What a risk. Would she truly have taken that risk? I don't think so. And it shows that she had an intimacy with this person, a closeness, a friendship, a rapport. Maybe a rapport that Suzanne was capable of as a pretty normal person, right? That Barry wasn't capable of having. She felt confident and close to his friend. And she told his friend, I know she was telling Sheila as well, but that was a risk, wasn't it? She felt comfortable saying it. What did she want Ziegler to do? Did she just want to alienate Barry from the one friend that may have actually been sticking with him from the olden days? By saying, look, he's a nut, this is what he's accusing me of. I mean, the sick irony is, of course, that everything he was accusing her of, she was doing. And this is why he was suspicious. Now, I think I did hear A.K. Rocks say he's found 3 women that have had an affair with Morphew. Well, have they talked to law enforcement? What testimony have they got? And what proof have they got? Sorry, but that's how I think about that, because so far the FBI hasn't found any proof. The other thing that they're looking for is proof of a hitman. I've talked to you before about Lloyd Rainey and the murder of Corin Rainey and how law enforcement in Western Australia searched for years and forensically for evidence that Lloyd Rainey had hired someone to murder his wife, Corinne, and they couldn't come up with anything, but, they had named him as, public enemy number 1. They harassed him for years, and he won a landmark defamation case and, he sued the police, and he's in the throes of more cases now. The difference with Rainey and Morphew is that Suzanne Morphew is still missing and Corinne Rainey was found. She never would have been found, and she was in a public park if it wasn't for the bollard knocked over. Anywho, so Barry Morphew is the person that shines a little light on that possibility himself. Is he this again? Is he so mad and an evil genius, or so stupid or ballsy or lucky or what, that, you know, why if he's hired a hitman would he highlight a $70,000 cachet of cash that is missing? Because that then says to, oh, we better investigate this. Could this have actually been paid to someone? You know, wouldn't he just keep shush about that if that's been a payment to a hitman, to a henchman or woman, right? That doesn't make sense, but what makes sense is that Barry Morphew is an opportunist and greedy and so entitled and everything to, you know, I don't know. He would take the opportunity to say, oh, and my money's gone as well, right? And, you know, now there's the question of was Mallory's home bought? Did the $70,000 exist? Is it in Suzanne's bank accounts that Libla has access to? We don't know this yet. Or is it the down payment used for Mallory's home in Gunnison? I mean, I think the perfectly acceptable, sensible thing to do is for Barry Morphew to ensure that... Sorry, I've been talking really loudly and a bit grating, haven't I? is to secure dwellings for his daughters. They need somewhere to live. They need some sort of income. It needs to be set up, because I think even though with what we've shown so far, legally Barry Morphew will probably get off, I still think there's actually 50-50 chance that he will be found guilty by a jury, and he needs to make he needs to get everything ready for his daughters if that happens, because he won't be there to look after them. They need somewhere to live and they need an income. So I believe Mallory's starting her own business. Perhaps she's got Barry's entrepreneurial skill. I hope that it's successful, whatever she does, because she's going to need to support herself and Macy. If Barry Morphew is convicted and put in prison, of course there's going to be an appeal, and I think if there's an appeal, I think he'd actually win his appeal unless something else happens. Suzanne is found and it proves that he killed her or something. You know, I think there is enough to quit, even though, you know, someone can be an abuser and not a murderer. Someone can be not a very likable person and not be a murderer. Someone can be a very likable person and be a murderer, right? So I don't think that because Barry is just, you know, so unliked by many people, it doesn't make him a murderer. And, you know, he could have been punishing Suzanne, wanting to stay away on the Sunday. Could have just got his kicks. But, you know, we've got to think of this too, okay? The cadaver dogs. And I'm not talking about September 2020. I'm talking earlier. I'm talking when agents were first going through the home, etc. I actually thought they only used bloodhounds. But if they did use cadaver dogs, it's my understanding, and I learned this from the Madeleine McCann case, which I know very well. It's my understanding that it takes 2 hours. Might take a bit longer, but it takes 2 hours of a body being somewhere before cadaver scent will be left for a dog, okay? So, and circumstances would change that, warmth, cold, etc., right? But it's about that long. So depending on if Barry Morphew did do something on the Saturday, if he was down at River Beach on the Friday or the Saturday night. Yes, he could have been doing something there even on the Saturday when Morgan was there. Sure, but the body would have been removed immediately. I thought River Beach was actually Friday night, not Saturday. Friday night, getting ready for Saturday when he and Morgan were there. And if it's Friday night, then the things on Saturday didn't happen. Because she couldn't be held at the house either for that long because there would be cadaver scent, human cadaver scent. And even on the Saturday afternoon, I mean, if he'd left immediately and had her with him somehow, when he's seen in town, he left so quickly, he made such a quick decision, you know, there would have been scent in his car in something that isn't cadaver scent, okay? So you've got to consider that. So that, you know, that is an issue that people have to explain and put the timing together. You know, if she's taken to Vanderveer Beach, remember that agents were at Vanderveer Beach. They did dig up some foundation. I don't know what they did to River Beach, but the timing still doesn't seem quite right, even though going there in the middle of the night, etc., seems funny. You've got to remember, police have been at that site. It doesn't mean they would find her, but they have been there and for a long time, etc., etc. And the other thing I wanted to say, I just thought of, and then leaving her alone on Sunday. Yeah, leave it, you know. So another reason why there may not be cadaver scent is, of course, because Suzanne left, you know, unwillingly or willingly. I used to think, because we didn't know, but I didn't realize, was there sign of a scuffle? There might be sign of a scuffle. You know, the sort of, she could have been pulled from her car. She could have ran away into the home, round the corner to her bedroom, the door being pushed in, Suzanne taken out and abducted. She could have left willingly. Suzanne, come with me. You know, it was the coffee cup from Saturday. She didn't have one on Sunday because she left early in the morning with Morphews in his truck, going willingly. Of course, there's no scent of anything, and she could have been disposed of along the way. He could have been just in Denver punishing her, because he is a punisher, isn't he? And he's a punisher on one hand, and yet he was the person still ordering and purchasing her CBD oil treatments, right? He may not have agreed with it, but he was purchasing it, even though he likes to talk about her having a drug dealer and that sort of thing. Someone else said something, her eyes looked off in the picture, and it wasn't just Barry saying she was drunk, it was Teresa Fountain. So Teresa, could her eyes have looked troubled or drunk, as Barry said in that final photo, right? Teresa, you met Suzanne twice, and I believe you may have had some contact, did you, on the phone or something? Or was it just at these treatments that you saw her twice? And you did go to an event with her once. You don't know, Suzanne. You've had the pleasure of being with her. I agree that all of your intentions are in the right place and that you are a good person, etc. But I think there is a tendency for people to elaborate and fill in gaps and idealize. We all do this. This is a human thing to do. And we interpret things a certain way, etc. We get very caught up, and it becomes a bit of a fantasy, really. Or what we think we see or saw, it's not that way. So, you know, people like to be disturbed and angered by every single thing Barry Morphew does. And he can be as disturbing and annoying and a person that really makes your blood boil. Sure. It doesn't mean that Suzanne wasn't a little bit tipsy, talking to Jeff, trying to chill out. When you're in great pain, you're overusing medications, and when you're trying to escape, a lot of people in bad domestic situations are using drugs and alcohol. In a situation, not to go into any detail much, but those are the times when I've misused drugs and alcohol a lot. So, it could be true. It doesn't mean he killed her. Okay, so he could have taken her. She could have thought she was going for a day in Denver for lunch, for some pampering, maybe to have a massage, or have a day of shopping, fashion shopping or something in Denver. That's the lie he could have told, right? So she could have gone willingly. Yeah. You just want to know, what have they done? There's the Highway 73 and 70, everything goes off when you're going along through Kaufman Ridge, which has always interested me, that ridge. Is there a roadhouse, the petrol station, the roadhouse, I don't know what American, truck stops, anything where there might be a camera where he's seen going off down a turnoff? Did he go towards Everglades where Trevor is, right? Trevor's been so quiet. When was Trevor actually contacted? It's that I want to know. I don't know if we know that specifically. But, yeah. Someone can be someone that you just don't like. I mean, he's definitely not my cup of tea. It doesn't make someone a murderer. They can be evangelical and have some very, we've seen in the Daybell case, right? I think Daybell's psychosis, he has had that accepted by others. They have bought into because of their own mental makeup and for who they are, right? And their own vulnerabilities or their own desires, being dragged along in with his belief system, psychosis, if you will. And Barry could have that type of shift in his mental acuity or his capability. He really could be running off the rails back here, and this is all very, I found him down to earth and naive, and my first impression in the Tyson video, there was this something about him. Now, it doesn't mean that underneath was simmering someone that was this fatalistic sort of person who had this very intense personal relationship with his Savior, with his God, right? That could drive him to be this wild at heart sweetie there's nothing sweet about. And I said I was going to tell you again about my friend. I mean, very early on look, you can just go and look up my video, Wild at Heart Sweetie. It's a very early Morphew video in one of my playlists, maybe in the Have You Really Been Listening playlist. Explain a little about the story, because no one was talking about that aspect of the Morphew relationship, and I did. And people, of course, obviously that's now laser focus for people, is domestic violence and that sort of thing, but it can be control. But could it be beyond and murder and feeling justified? Was there an accident and feeling justified? I mean, did Morphew really find out about Suzanne's affair and kill her? when he kind of nearly genuinely seemed to not know who it was, and it drove him fucking crazy. But he was trying to find out, possibly that night, with a vengeance. And it seems to have some connection to people that might be called Jeff and be a bit older. You'd think, wouldn't you think, if he was thinking it? See, he's not very bright. Is he bright enough to make all these genius moves, even though he might be into true crime? I mean, he had to act very quickly if this wasn't planned right. So he's thinking on the fly. And is he bright enough? He's got a lot of skill that he can transpose into things from hunting, right? But is he bright enough to think so on the fly? You would think he would have been able to work out Jeff Libler, right, if he suspected it was someone back from Indiana. But yet he was thinking Arizona. And was he goading Suzanne in a way? Should we move to Arizona? Yeah, let's move to Arizona. How bright is he? You know, did he not think, I wonder if she's, okay, who could it be? I remember that little twerp that backed down so easily on the golf course that time. He didn't fight for her. He just threw her back to me like she was nothing. Yeah. Yeah, he was getting, is he getting his kicks now? Getting one back on me? You know, Yeah, I mean, he didn't, I don't know. I think Jeff's kind of a common name for people around our age, right? I know plenty of Jeffreys that are in that 45 to 65 age group sort of thing. It's kind of, yeah. So all these things, you know, I know that there is power to a whole heap of circumstantial evidence, but, you know, without having Suzanne, Linda Stanley, I personally believe she's just been so hasty that this case may never have resolve if Barry is guilty. And I think you owe it to yourselves to, I don't know, you've got to consider that he might not be, because you could be in this situation one day and things can look circumstantial all the time. It just does not mean you've done anything. There's plenty of people that are in prison, innocent, that have spent life terms there or have even been executed. And this is why we have the law and the system, and why it's up to the prosecutors to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and why it is innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Because it is, you know, it's an unconscionable travesty to have someone locked away, have their liberty taken, their lives stolen and wrecked, and all their family, anyone relying on them or in their life, or, you know, let alone that very person, you know, that's why, you know, you have to be sure. And if you are not sure, you can't convict. I don't know if Suzanne will ever be found, whether it was Barry or not. Look, Morgan is not a reliable witness. And okay, yeah, sure, that conversation might have happened. But she's the one that talked about pigs eating bodies, the way she tells it out of her own words. So whether it's true or not, if it's true, she's the one that says, she said, did you know pigs can eat bodies? And then Barry says, well, I would know how to hide a body too. Maybe saying so I wouldn't need to find a pig farm. But now she brings that up as some sort of evidence, like a weird thing that he said. She's having the conversation, right? And she is unreliable as it is. You know, using and abusing people depending on how they're serving you and your beliefs is wrong. So Morgan got so much crap for, being Morphews' baby daddy. Her sons, are his. Suzanne knew she came from Indiana, blah, 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 right? Well, you know what? That's pretty rough. But now she's going to be some sort of heroine in court testifying. When her testimony is lies, made up or just wrong about that Sunday. I mean, I've even considered, and I think, a lot of people might have speculated initially. I thought, well, who knew that Suzanne was there alone? Jeffrey Puckett, a domestic abuser, and there was accusations from another boss's wife of sexual abuse. Because, and he had hours before he was on the road with Morgan. Did he know? Morgan, she knew she was expecting to be picked up at 5:30. What's happened? Shoshone dark. It might be an American thing, I don't know, to have all these aliases or different types of names, maybe just needing to make fresh starts all the time, maybe, I don't know why, but she's done some pretty awful things, right? She's got an edge to her. Did she decide she would have known Barry was going down to Broomfield. Maybe he thought, Barry says he didn't know her, but was she, aware for a friend that cleaned homes along with her? And did she take Suzanne out to get close to Barry? I don't know. Barry is insistent he didn't know her until after the September searches in October. He has made accusations against Shoshona's daughter. I mean, she's either shady or she's someone that just, she struggles through life. She's had some trauma in life, that woman, She has served her country, okay? She's someone that in her life has been able to accomplish things such as a tertiary education, and she has made sacrifices in life, but she's also questionable if all the stalking is true, right? I mean, that is deranged and demented to just, it's so hateful, it's so vengeful, and to spend time to stalk the hairdresser person, to go and turn up to the salons that the hairdresser is working in. It's so aggressive, and it's carrying around so much, like, even if we might have so many resentments towards someone that has truly hurt us, and the things that sometimes we can think, and the revenge that we might want and feel like we need, but to act on these things, it's more common to take these things out on yourself with self-harming activity, like alcohol abuse, like drug abuse, right? I mean, there seems to be, there are people that they do live this. I mean, I've recently just had someone very violent at my workplace. She is someone that is completely off the wall, but it's anger, and it's anger in her life coming out, not towards a particular person, but just whomever is in her path, right? And there are people that, they are going through life in these states of, violence, the aggression, yelling, kicking, just fighting with people, petty crime, breaking things, vandalism, that sort of energy, right? That chaotic, violent energy, because that's what's inside, that just can't come out any other way. And sometimes it's from trauma, sometimes they're just nasty people, sometimes, yeah, they're trying to, they're communicating something, aren't they? But to do something like that, it speaks of a particular type of character that it doesn't show someone in a very good light. It's not admirable. It's not an admirable trait to take things out of your head, to take it out of your own thoughts, or how you treat yourself, or how you react in the world, just, not harming others, to go and actually do things like that. It's demented. Anywho, this has been so long. I don't even know. It's 1:04:12. Okay, so this is going to be bonkers to try and upload. If you've stuck with me through all of this, thank you. Hopefully you just throw it on 2.0 and you just get on with whatever else you're doing. Thank you for listening. I just sometimes, I haven't talked things through about this case with you guys for so long, about Suzanne, about Barry, because I've spent the last year in a reactionary place, because of content other people were making. And it was hard just to sit and be quiet for two reasons. Number one, when people are continually talking about and repeating, whether it's verbally or in written form, things that aren't right, aren't fact, and just rolling with it and then using it to speculate around and things like that, or just saying things with great glee, or being cruel. Okay, the second thing, being just cruel, or not, Mallory and Macy might have. I don't think so. It's possible, though, one or both may have had something to do with Suzanne, or may have guilty knowledge. But I think it's better that you assume no. Nothing points at that stage. It's wrong of you to think that supporting a parent means guilty knowledge. Or that they acquiesce, that they are all good with it, that they know and that they're good with it, right? So the bullying and everything that went on with that, beyond just mere, okay, well, let's look at this. How would that work? Okay,